I've just made us a pot of coffee in this old vintage CorningWare Percolator. I love using them. They've made tons of coffee over the years. But stick with me, and I'm going to tell you why I could never sell you one. I'm George, the curator of Auntie stuff on Etsy. And if you've watched my channel before, you probably know I love to live with, repair, recondition, test, and sell vintage items. But I can never sell you one of these CorningWare Percolators. It's not because they don't work or they don't make good coffee, but I can't sell them, and here's why. Starting in the mid-century, Corningware made both stovetop and electric percolators, and they really look remarkably similar. They came in almost every pattern Corningware ever made, and they came in several different sizes. They're dishwasher safe, they make excellent coffee, and they go beautifully with your Corningware vintage collection. So if these are so wonderful, why don't I have them in my Etsy shop? Well, there's a little history here. Back in the 60s and 70s, epoxy was a relatively new adhesive material. These are made with an epoxy seal between this metal piece where the handle attaches and the glass pyroceram at the bottom. Apparently, there were some units made where that seal failed and the handle separated from the vessel. Obviously, that would not be a great thing. Coffee would spill, people would get burned. So after it happened a few times, Corningware by 1979 had recalled every model of the percolators they made in order to redesign them. They did come up with a redesign. I don't have an example of it, but you can always tell if you have a redesigned percolator because there will be pyroceram above and below the metal ring. So even though Corning recalled them in the late 1970s, many families continued to use them for decades. Many still do. As you can see, I just made coffee in this one today. I've never had a problem with one. That doesn't mean you should use one. Everyone has their own level of risk they're willing to assume. As a seller, I have to decide where to draw the line. I personally don't think these are inherently unsafe, but I also can't promise that every single one is safe to use. That's simply not a chance I'm willing to take. As it turns out, Etsy reached a similar conclusion. Etsy's consumer safety rules forbid the selling of any product that's ever had a recall in the United States. That includes these percolators. I actually learned that the hard way by posting them on my Etsy site. Etsy took them down and sent me a warning letting me know what had happened with them. Before that, I didn't know anything about it. That's how carefully Etsy enforces their consumer safety rules. And honestly, I respect that. So if you already own one, whether you continue to use it is your decision. Whether I sell you one, that's my decision. My job isn't to tell you how to live with your vintage. It's just to decide what goes in my shop. Every vintage seller has to make those kinds of decisions. Sometimes it's a crack in a piece of pottery. Sometimes it's a worn out motor on an appliance. Sometimes it's a piece of jewelry with a stone missing. And sometimes it's a product with a very complicated history. One of the things I enjoy most about selling vintage isn't just finding great pieces. It's helping them find a second chance. But sometimes they just can't. The hardest part of selling vintage is deciding what doesn't make the cut.